Dr. Simuyemba wears so many hats. Sometimes it's very difficult to introduce him fully. But I will focus more on his credentials for why we asked him to come and take up this topic. Dr. Simuyemba is a certified power coach, or basically a certified personal trainer. And am I saying it correctly?
Yes.
Okay, good. And so we felt that it would be good for him to come and give us his skills in that area. Like I mentioned earlier, he wears so many hats. A big hand for Dr. Simuyemba as he presents.
So, some questions to get us started and thinking. What made you decide to become a doctor?
It was a parental decision. The field is the most for me, and it's medical doctor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay. So how's it worked out so far?
So far, I found that it's a very enjoyable job and fulfilling as well. Yes.
These clips which the media likes showing, people thinking, then I saw one guy with a coloscopy. He was asking for money to go to South Africa for an operation. I wondered why whatever I wanted to do could not be done in Zambia. And I made the decision that I should become a doctor so that I should make a difference in Zambia.
Thank you. Like Wednesday, I was YouTube thinking there was a lot of money in this. But later on I found out that more than money. Okay.
Great. And lastly, last question. If you were not a doctor, what would you be doing?
At that point. But looking at the way it is right now, I think I would have been an engineer.
Great. Okay, so you would be an engineer?
Pastor.
Pastor. Oh, great. You don't tell us why? Same thing.
Yeah. Well, it's my passion to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. So whether I am a doctor or not, I do that.
Wonderful.
What's your name?
I would have been a pastor.
Pastor as well?
Yeah. Actually, after finishing grade 12, I was certified to go for pastoral training.
Okay.
But I chose to do medicine first. So ultimately, it's one of the goals that we have to be achieved. Okay. That will have to be combined. Thank you.
Yeah, I think at the time when we invited was closed, I wanted to be an engineer. So I chose medicine. My friend said it was a big passion for me. So I think I did medicine after done engineering.
Okay.
I wasn't a doctor right now. Everything was stripped of me for being a medical doctor. I think I'll be a good person in advocacy for the poor and for anything that gives me passion to see everyone fine. Yeah. And even business-wise, very good at selling things. Yeah.
I'm probably sitting somewhere working alone.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to do.
Okay, so a bit of a lab tech kind of job. Great. Great. Let's look at the making of a doctor. And I've put here the well-trodden path, or the proven path. For most of us, it's secondary school, then you go to university, then your internship after you graduate, marriage and kids, although that can really come anywhere along those lines, but for a lot of people, I guess it's after they graduate that they get married and have kids. Some is before. Some do their masters, which usually is the MEd courses, you know, obs and gynae, pediatrics, internal medicine, surgery. And then you rise up the ranks until you are a consultant. That's the traditional pathway that a doctor follows in our setting. How to become a doctor? You can see a gentleman there, very hip, with dreadlocks, sunglasses, you know, very free guy. And on the other side, once he's been through medical school, the final product, very polished. No funny things like dreadlocks. You know, the peace sign has become just pointing, so very conforming. And I think that is very typical of what the medical education does to us. We enter university with our own personalities, our own way of doing things, and through the training, we're trained to conform to a certain idea of what a doctor is, a certain idea of how a doctor should behave. I remember when I went to Ridgeway campus in third year, I had an earring on my left ear. And people were like, wow, a medical student with an earring. This one is going to fail. There is no way these lecturers will let him pass through the medical school with that earring. And I was told by more than one lecturer that I needed to lose that earring if I wanted to continue in med school. It was a very tough thing to do for me to lose that. I remember I waited something like 2 months. And by that time we had 2 tests. I think one was anatomy, the other one was physiology. So I made sure I jobbed so that I can show these guys that I deserve to be in this school, whether I had a hearing or not. And it so turned out that I got very good marks. I think I was one of the higher students in those 2 tests. So then I thought to myself, well, I've proven myself. I think now I can take off the earring. So I did take off the earring after all, because the pressure was too much. But that is how much we are trained to conform through our training. So our individuality as we go through that training, in a certain way dies. You know, we're made to have a certain image of what a doctor should be. So finally you graduate. The long awaited, after 7 years, finally a doctor, and you're very happy, your family is very proud of you. If you're a guy, you know, immediately you go to ladies and say, I'm a doctor. It's like, wow. You know, your market suddenly goes up. And so it's a very satisfying time when you have that qualification now. It's in the bag. You're looking forward to a good life that you've been dreaming about for quite some time. But then you start your internship and what happens? It's not quite all that you thought it would be, is it? Yes, you have more money now, but you have less time to enjoy it. Because you're always in the hospital doing calls, ward rounds. When you're not in the hospital, you're too tired, you just want to be home and rest. A lot of pressure of dealing with your superiors in the wards. So a certain level of dissatisfaction sets in. And depending on your personality, you will find certain ways to cope with that. So you try to find a way to cope. Things are bad, they're not as good as you thought they would be. What do you do? Okay? Various ways to cope. I remember for me, I was 6 months into my internship. For the first 2 months, I did not receive my salary because I was not on payroll. For the next 3 months after that, I did not receive my on-call allowance for reasons I don't know. So by the time I clocked 6 months, and working very hard in the wards, I was very dissatisfied and disappointed. Then a friend of mine, Dr. Simon Tembo, who some of you might know, came to visit me at the flat where I was sharing a flat with Dr. Lessa Wright. The flat was rented for us by UTH. And so he came and said, hey, ZAF are recruiting officers, and they want doctors. So I said, oh, really? What are the conditions like? So he told me, you know, they'll give you a vehicle, the pay is good, they'll pay for your rent and this and that. So looking at my situation at UTH, I thought, this must be better than where I am. So that was my coping strategy. The next day or so, we were at the ZAF base there, doing medical tests, and they made us run around a little bit to see how fit we were. And that was it. The next 2 weeks, we found ourselves in Livingstone at the ZAF Academy.